nobody knows the long-term effects of these vaccines because they haven't been around long enough. Yeah, they've been tested for a couple months, but nobody knows the long-term effects. So think about this. Any vaccine that's been around for like 20 or 30 years, they did testing on it 20 or 30 years ago and determined it was safe enough to go to the general public. But they still didn't know at that time whether or not there would be long-term effects. Now that it's 20 or 30 years later and there are people who are maybe alive, maybe dead, who had the vaccine 20 or 30 years ago, we know whether or not there are long-term effects. But the way the testing works is, generally, they don't even put it in people first. They put it in animals. Animals that are similar to humans in different ways, to determine how safe it is. And by the way, keep in mind, the dictionary defines safe as free from risk. The government defines safe as mostly free from risk. So they test these things in animals, usually for months or years, before determining it's safe, not for the general public, but for a small test group of humans. Then, once nothing really bad happens there, they determine it's safe enough to go to a larger group. The COVID vaccine that they rushed through, if they did test on animals, did not test it for very long. They did test it on humans. I don't even think that's been a month since they started giving it to people. So nobody knows the long-term effects, and yet they are rushing to give it to everybody. Everybody. I'm going to say this again. Normally the vaccines go to animals, then a small group of people, then a larger group of people, then a larger group of people, then a larger group of people, and many adults who survived a lot of these diseases never get these vaccines in the first place. The COVID vaccine is going from a small group of people to everybody. And they're trying to tell us that they know this is safe. They do not know this is safe. It might be, although we've seen some pretty bad reactions to it already. We've seen people getting really sick from it. We've seen people getting Bell's palsy from it. Maybe it's a very, very, very small percent, but are there any long-term effects? We don't know. How long does it take for a long-term effect to kick in? It could be a year. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. The vaccine has not been around for 1 year, so nobody knows if there will be long-term effects. Don't believe the bullshit, guys.